Hello, and welcome to Troy Story, a podcast for the Collar City where we explore the history of Troy, New York, one conversation at a time. I'm your host, John Salka. We're back for part 2 of our interview with Dan Frament, former owner of Mud Daddy Flats. In the second half of our conversation, Dan revisits his long career in the food service industry, the difficulties of balancing work and family life as he rose through the ranks of various corporate positions, and the obstacles and challenges he and countless other restaurants encountered beginning in 2019 through the pandemic and post-pandemic period. Let me start by welcoming all the new listeners who are here after reading the Times-Union story in Monday's paper. I'm glad you found your way here, and I hope you enjoy the episode. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. I'm humbled by your continued interest in the show. Seriously. For those who didn't read the article, I've dropped the link in the show notes. We have some really exciting interviews scheduled for the next few months with some very, very excellent guests, so stay tuned for that. Make sure to visit troystorypod.com for the latest news on episodes, and most importantly, to sign up for email updates. If you could, please take a minute to leave a review of our show on Apple Podcasts. Other than word of mouth, reviews are the most effective way to help people find the show. Finally, don't be afraid to drop us a line if you have an idea, suggestion, or just want to say hello. We can be reached at mail@troystorypod.com. Okay, let's roll the tape on part 2 of our interview with Dan Frament. Everybody knows you as the owner of Mud Daddy Flats, technically former owner. How did you get into the restaurant business?
I had part-time jobs noodling around. When I got laid off, Troy eliminated my position.
Oh, what did you do for the city?
I worked at the middle school. The kid I was transitioning into the middle school.
Oh, the school district.
Yes, the school district, not the city, but the school district. They recruited me. His mom was a special ed teacher, and he had been in numerous special ed programs, and she wanted him integrated. And the school said, we don't have anybody that can do that. And she gave them my name. And at that point, I was working for Parsons Child and Family Center in Albany. So they reached out and told me what was happening. And it wasn't long before I was in the middle school. I said it was probably going to take about 5 years to really, and it didn't. It took 2. And he was he's a popular kid in the school. And he was making a lot of progress. And then they're like, well, we don't need you anymore. So I had to start looking for another job. So I needed to work. In the meantime, Jordy didn't have much masonry work that he was doing. So he says, hey, go to Price Chopper in Skickley. So I went and was working in the food court in Price Chopper. Easy stuff to master. I caught on, and the guy who was in charge of it was a CIA graduate. So, he was good at teaching me things and showing me things if I had any questions. And I just okay, I was having a ball. In the meantime, this was 95, so I was getting ready because I had been selected to be the head coach for the Special Olympics powerlifting team to the World Games. So I had this thing coming up and was trying to get ready to go to New Haven, Connecticut for the Special Olympic World Games. And I met this woman in the deli. And she wanted my attention more than I wanted hers. I was too busy. I had started this powerlifting team at Special Olympics, and Gold Gym was new in Guilderland, had given me a membership. So if I wasn't at work, I was with my daughter or I was at the gym. And a lot of times I had my daughter at the gym because they had a nursery. And I don't have time for this, but yeah, she got my attention. So I met her there. And Price Chopper thought it was really cool because the media would follow me. They got the largest team going to the Special Olympic World Games was the New York powerlifting team. The biggest powerlifting team there was going to be from New York. And I was the head coach, which made absolutely no sense to me. I've only got 1.5 hands. When I did my coaching certification, I it's bench lift, squat, and deadlift. And New York does not sanction the squat for Special Olympics. So it's bench and deadlift. So the Earl brothers from Syracuse, they were my trainers for my certification class. And I click, okay, bench we can work with. I can do this. But I can't tell you what I'm going to be able to accomplish for deadlift. They said, look, just hook. So and I pulled 240 pounds off the floor. And they're like, see, you can do this. Do it again. And it's like, okay, done. We're doing this. And that's what I did. And I just kept working at it. But the media was like, in Special Olympics was right there going, we got this team. So we would have these promotional events in the Price Chopper in Schenectady. And we would I'd get the whole team together and, for pizza at Price Chopper, getting ready for the World Games. And so I was really busy. But but that's where I met her. And then we wound up leaving Schenectady to come to the Latham store, which is now a Market 32. Their food court was in rough shape. Yeah, things started turning around and growing, and that's where we met. But then I had other jobs, so I was working for St. Coleman's Home and working at Price Chopper, and then working at TGI Fridays at night as a line cook. And then Melissa got pregnant, and we had Josh. Josh was a preemie. He came out so little. You know what it's like to be a dad. Can you imagine? This kid came out, he was 17 inches long, but he had long legs, and I would cradle his head in my hand between my thumb and index finger. And it would take 5 weeks to get him out of the hospital. But they only let Melissa stay for a week. So after that, I would run to the hospital between jobs. So I would go and visit Josh in the NICU and go to work, get out, swap. She still worked at Price Chopper, so I could, she would bring milk, so I would grab the milk from Price Chopper, go back to the hospital, visit Josh, and go to work at TGI Fridays. And then any chance I got was try to get, so Melissa could get to the hospital. It was a long 5 weeks. So yeah, it was time to look for something else. So I'm working at Price Chopper. I'm working at St. Coleman's. I'm working at TGI Fridays. And the opportunity came to go to the Weather Vane in Saratoga. It was a seafood restaurant. Weather Vane offered me management training. They said, we're starting a management training group going through. There'll be 5 people. At the end of the training, 1 will be a bonus assistant. And the others, if whoever survives, other than that, will be assistants, but only 1 gets the bonus. So really didn't want to jump ship because I was very grateful to the GM at Fridays for giving me the job and for giving me the chance, because it was insane and I really needed to just be able to pay my bills. But we talked, and that opportunity wasn't going to be available to me, and I'm like, I got to look forward. So I left Fridays and went to St. Coleman's, and I went to the Weather Vane, and I would work there for a few years. Actually, when our second son came along, Ian, in '98, I was part of the team opening the Weather Vane on Wolf Road. Almost missed his birth because of work schedules.
So was that kind of the start?
That was my start in management. That's where I learned restaurant management.
And that led to sort of all the other different jobs that you had. Where else did you work after so you worked at the Weather Vane, you had this management certification training, whatever, and that led to sort of how many, over the course of what period of time, how many different places did you work in sort of a management capacity?
After the Weather Vane, I wound up with a McDonald's franchise, actually. And I would be an assistant up here in Brunswick, up on Hoosick Street. And McDonald's had just rebuilt their management training course. So I was the second class to go through their new management training course, which was really cool and a lot of fun. From there, I would go to Brugger's, and I would run 3 different Brugger's. I mean, as soon as I finished the management training, I finished training and went and took over a store that had lost its GM. It's like I did not spend any time as an assistant there other than while I was training. And I just, okay, Dan, we're sending you here. We need you to do this. Okay. I made a big impact. So they're like, hey, guess what? We're sending you to downtown Albany. Downtown Albany's in trouble. We just fired the GM. They need somebody to clean it up and get it back on its feet. Okay, so I went there. And then from there to Clifton Park. And then from there, I went to my district manager at Brugger's. Said, hey, we need people in this Wendy's franchise. It's like, okay, Wayne, I'll follow you. A lot of people were. It's like, I'm there. So I went to work for a Wendy's franchise. And I ran Central Avenue Colony, and then I went to Amsterdam for a while, and then I went back to running Colony, helped out in East Greenbush for a while. So I was like, I did Wendy's for a bit, and then...
At what point did you decide? So you've been, I don't know how many years that probably covered, moving from McDonald's to Brugger's to Wendy's. At what point did you decide, you know what, I don't want to work for anybody else. I want to work for myself. When did you decide that was going to be?
From like 93 to 2006 was all focused on food service. 95 forward was all management. 2006, Walgreens was moving into the area. And if you know anything about restaurant management, especially when you're doing these corporate entities, the hours are horrendous. They really are. And I was always fixing stores. But we get to 2006 and like, maybe I'll try something cleaner. You know, I don't have to boil out the fryers every week and, you know, cleaning out the hoods and like getting all this. So I went to work for Walgreens. Their first store was in Colony, and I was there to open Colony, open Guilderland, then open Troy and Amsterdam and Saratoga. And, started in March of 2006. April of 2008, I took over as store manager in Saratoga. Like, they asked me in 2007, they're like, because you went from an hourly assistant to what they called an EXA, an executive assistant, at which point they would groom you to be a store manager. 2007, well, Dan, don't you want to be an EXA? No. I'm making more money as an hourly assistant than I've made anywhere else as a store manager, and with a lot less headaches. It's been just over 2 years. Isn't this supposed to take longer? I don't want to have a store.
So you were managing the store. That was kind of like the beginning, the end for working for somebody else before you opened Mud Daddy?
Yeah. I mean, I had a restaurant plan for a place called That's a Wrap. And it was all like wraps instead of sandwiches. And I had built a menu and stuff. I was like, okay, I want to do this. This is going to be a goal. And then a place opened up in Saratoga called That's a Wrap. Well, that one's gone. You know, well, maybe we'll go coffee shop concept. I don't know. I wasn't sure. Right after I took over the Saratoga store for Walgreens, guess what happened? You remember the financial collapse of 2008? I had been a store manager for a month. Guess what? You got a new store. Okay, game on. And it would just be like, fine. It wasn't as dirty as working in a restaurant, but it was more stress, and it was a lot, long hours, and missing so much of my kids. So when the opportunity came, it's like, whatever. I'm going to be from never being around to always being around. And I just took all the things that I had learned, and it's like, okay, I'm going to put this together. And that's how I started Mud Daddy Flats. It's like, okay, I had definitely learned probably the worst thing for restaurants is people have this idea, oh, I can cook and this is going to be fun. It's like, there's a business side to the business. And if you aren't prepared for it, it will run you over. There are big name chefs who open up restaurants, but they don't run the restaurants because when they do, they don't normally pay attention to the business side, and it kills them. So that's the hard part. So I made sure to learn as much as I could about the business side. So you got to run a business as well as do the good parts, which is the cooking and serving. And So I think I'm grateful for all the pains that I went through, because I went through a lot of growing pains to get there. So they helped me to learn how to survive.
Like what you hear? Well, then it might be time to give us a flattering review. Reviews are the best way to make the magical podcast algorithm suggest our modest little podcast to other listeners. If you're feeling extra generous, please share this episode with a friend, family member, or that special person in your life. They'll thank you for it, and we will be forever in your debt. Troy Story, a podcast for the Collar City, streaming everywhere you get your podcasts. So it's 2024. You announced just about a month ago. Now it's end of February 2024. Maybe a couple weeks ago now you announced that Mud Daddy Flats is closing after 11 years. Maybe just kind of unpack exactly what happened. Obviously, the last 4 years has been pretty psychotic, I guess, maybe from not just here in Troy, but worldwide with COVID and everything that has happened since February of 2020. Literally 4 years ago to the month.
Yeah. Actually, 2019 was a rough year. Going out to different events, talking with vendors, because we have a good time. We get together and we share. And 2019, a lot of my friends with food trucks and food trailers doing events were really having a difficult year. 2019 I was so happy at the end of 2019 because I had worked so hard and had done less than a year before. Not by a lot, but I worked more for less. So 2019 was not a great year. So we're looking forward to 2020, and the pandemic hit. So now it's game on. Get loose, get fast, think on your feet, let's go. But there was also help. You could apply for PPP. You could, you were going to get help. They said, you were struggling, and there was rent abatement for people who really were struggling harder than others to make adjustments. I had already been working with Grubhub and Melio for delivery. It wasn't big, but it was already established. So, we dug in, and it hurt, but we cut back, and we survived. We got through, and opportunities came, so I was able to borrow, to look forward to as we can put things back together, how we can move forward. I got the opportunity to buy the food truck. It's like, okay, we're gonna make this work. We're gonna drive. 21, we're bouncing back. We made a good chunk back. 22, we're digging in, and by the end of 2022, we had made back what we had lost in 2020. 2023, this whole new normal, and they're not here. The streets are quiet. The nights are quiet. I'm loading up the truck schedule. People are like, well, Dan, we don't see much. It's like, I'm here. If I'm in the restaurant, I still have to run the business. I still have to get supplies. I'm like, before the restaurant opens, I'm doing all the cooking prep stuff that I have to do. But now I got to take care of the rest of the business and get the truck ready, because I completed 120 events for that year. That puts me in the truck every 3 days for the year.
Which is a lot.
It is a lot. And it takes hours to get this thing set and ready to go. You got to take care of the trucks, and you got to get all the stuff, and you got to get it ready. And that 120 doesn't include the dozen or so that were rained out or canceled. And when we get through it all, I lost more than I did in 2020. All that I made up in 2 years was gone. Plus, we went that much farther back. And the beginning of 23 was so rough. And it's like, that's how bad things were. And it's like, well, I can make it up during the summer. I can make it up with events. I made more than ever before with the truck, but it was nowhere near enough. And it got to the end of the year, and I'm like, everything is good. I'm not behind, but I have no way to go forward. I have nothing left to juggle, shuffle. Honestly, I did have a line of credit that I could borrow from, but everything had been borrowed up, and I can't now make all the payments. I couldn't make that jump forward to bring things down enough. So close. The loan I got for finishing the trucks, half paid. It's like, but I don't have a way to make that second half. Everything, the dominoes just stacked up. Everything that I did that woulda, coulda, shoulda worked wasn't. And now I'm at the point where this avalanche is just going to wipe me off the face of the mountain. And I can't do anything for me or my employees or my community, because in the course of 2023, I was on the bid board of directors for 7 years, and I was still going to the meetings and sitting in the peanut gallery because I can't vote, but I can contribute. I had to stop doing that. Attending quality of life meetings, I had to stop doing that because I was in the truck, or everything that I did that really brought joy into my life stopped to fight for survival. And the end result was you're out of gas. I started looking for options in the fall. If you don't have money, there aren't any. My first thing was, okay, let's restructure Chapter 11. RestaurantOwner.com is a fantastic resource. And I went there, and there was webinars on bankruptcies and different forms, and I learned all about Chapter 11, Subchapter 5, and okay, I can do this. This is good. This is great. The thing is, you need $8,000 to do it. I'm just making payroll. And I've got a total of 4 employees. Okay, there was just no way to do it. I had nothing. So scheduled 3 events in the truck. So I'm out in the truck. It's January, and it's cold, and I'm trying to get, and it didn't help. 2 of the 3 were good. The third one was an absolute dud. I lost money because nobody showed up to the event.
That must have been incredibly difficult to sort of reach that point. I don't want to say realization, because you were moving in that direction already, but you were trying everything you could do to make it work.
I saw it coming, and I knew it was coming, and I refused to give up hope, and I was gonna find an answer. I always find an answer, and we've been through a lot of hard times before. We've had bumps in the road and things that have caused issues and gotten close to that borderline where it's like, look, you're in trouble. If you don't find a solution, you're out. We've had some of those come and go. Quite honestly, part of it comes down to faith, because I always believed that God didn't bring me this far to drop me on my head. Mid-fall, probably around November, it's like you're going on your head. That sense that I didn't come this far to be dropped on my head. It's like I wasn't being dropped on my head, but it's over. And they're like, no, this is no. But yes, this is ending. It's like, where's the answers? Everywhere I turned, the answers weren't there. Everything I tried, it's like, it's not coming up. Usually I could redouble my efforts and push through, get a few events, and move ahead just enough to give me some breathing room to sprint to the next level. Didn't happen. Everything just kept falling through, and more things went wrong than right. It's like, I have to give it up. I have to let go. I have to give it up. It's going to make an impact. It's going to make an impact on my life, my family, my employees, and it's going to make an impact on the community. I've worked hard to be part of this community, and it's always been a priority. That being positive, and that going to see new people, encouraging people, that's part of my life, and that's something that's going to be taken away. And so that part hurts the most. But it's over. It's like, it's got to go. So now what do? I got to try to use this to the best of my ability to say, hey, I'm not the only person out here struggling. There are a lot of people who are not far from closing their doors because the sales aren't there. When I meet another business owner who says, well, you told me before that you're going to run into hard times, but sometimes you just have to weather them and learn how to not make it happen the next time. But it's not going away. How do you know when to stop? Because it's not going away. And I don't have an answer for that. It's like, that's something you have to feel. And, but yeah, there's people who have changed their hours and they're doing everything they can, but the sales aren't there. The other part of the pandemic was people were always at home and they learned to have things come to them. You want to stay in the comfort of your home and have your stuff brought to you.
So I think what you're really getting at is small businesses thrive on feet on the street, coming through the front door.
Takeout is good. Order takeout. You know what? You order takeout, it's going to cost me $1.99. And they're going to have the menu all organized. They're going to have a format that's going to be fine. But it's going to cost me $1.99. I can take that. That's fine. That makes it easier. You don't have to call me. It's like everything's formatted. That's a beautiful thing. But that's a pickup order. A delivery is going to cost more, but nowhere near what Grubhub's going to do. And Uber Eats and DoorDash cost even more than Grubhub. And that's what hurts. And it's bad enough that the volume in and of itself is down. But when there's a large percentage of that volume that is coming from somebody else and taking away, so it's built in reduced, it's even harder. That ease and convenience is eroding our business base. It's hurting people. Some have stopped processing fees. You got to realize that a percentage of every sale with a card goes to the bank. And that's always been a cost of doing business.
Got a question? Have a suggestion? We want to hear from you. Drop us a line at mail@troystorypod.com. You can always find us on social media, including YouTube, Instagram, Threads, Facebook, TikTok, and even the digital wasteland known as X, formerly Twitter. When we were texting, setting this interview up, you replied and said that it was
a love story.
You said it was definitely a love story, is
Yes.
how you characterized it.
Yes.
Based on our conversation, it certainly seems like there was always a lot of passion and love that came from you directly into the business. And I think that always shone through in the way that people remembered your business, thought about your business, thought about you personally. And I think, the loss of Mud Daddy Flats to me personally stinks. I can't tell you how many times that I've come in here. You were a staple. And I would like to emphasize that even though the restaurant is gone, I imagine a lot of people are going to be really interested in seeing what you do next. I don't know what that is, but I'm going to assume that whatever it is, it will have the sort of classic Dan energy and love and passion. No matter what you do is will be infused in whatever you decide to do next.
It's make an impact with your life. It's just make an impact. What are you going to do? What do you leave behind? What are you giving to the world? It's not what you can get, because it really doesn't matter what you get, because whatever you get, when you're done, it's gone. Okay, you don't take it with you. So, shiny toys and big things, no. But what you leave behind makes a difference. And so that's why, my greatest joy is just going to see all the people I know downtown. Good God, we were all broke during COVID. We were just struggling, but it didn't matter. I have never eaten so much takeout in my life. I couldn't solve the problem. I couldn't be the big wave. I couldn't be like the hero, but you know what? I could be there day in and day out, and I could keep trying, and I could be part of just keeping it going. There was a whole community downtown that we would just order from each other. We may not be making a hell of a lot of money, but we've got this pool of money that we're moving around, and it's helping to keep all of us going. My birthday. What do you want for your birthday? I'm not running off to some fancy restaurant. What am I going to do for my birthday? I'm wandering downtown. Especially if I haven't gotten to see neighbors in a while. It's like, I'm going out and I'm going to support my neighbors. That's what I'm going to do. That's where I'm going to go. When After we closed February 10th, I went out visiting neighbors and just wandering around. It's like, that's what I'm going to do. It's a love story. This is where I want to be. This is where I love to be. I didn't see it ending this soon. I remember a city council meeting when there was a proposal that would have collapsed the bid in 2014. It was kind of scary, and I was there, and the last thing I said was, I plan on being here until they pry the spatula from my cold dead hand. Didn't quite make it that far, but it's a love story. I love Troy. It's quirky, it's gritty, it gets funny and grumpy. It's so much amazing history. How do you not? People are like, Troy, aren't you afraid? No, I'm not afraid. I have walked this city from end to end so many times in my life. Yeah, it's a love story, and I'm glad I'm still here. As far as what's next, I have no idea. I really have no idea. I don't know. I don't have anything yet. I don't have any plans. I'm not sure what to do. Really not interested in doing another corporate restaurant setup. I don't know. When I need to know, I guess I'll know.
I think wherever you end up, you're going to be wildly successful, whether it's your own place again or if it's somewhere else. But I think a lot of people are going to miss Mud Daddy Flats, and but you'll still be around. So
yeah, I'm still around. Most days are okay. Some days are, I have those days that are really a struggle. Yesterday my wife dragged me over to out to Del Mar. My son works as a brewer, works in a brewery, and he splits his time between brewing and running the tap room. And she's like, you just need to get away and go visit. So she's like, let's go see your kid. Like, okay, I'm game. So that did help. There are days that, but being Mud Daddy was the greatest. I have just loved that forever. And I am very, very grateful for having the opportunity to actually be able to do that. Most people will never know that feeling. They'll never know what that's like. As terrifying as it is, they'll never know what that's like. So, yeah, I don't know what's next. The odd thing is, I'm not scared yet. When I opened, I was terrified. When I opened, oh yeah, I was terrified. I have never learned so much fear as owning a business. There's been a lot of really terrifying days, like you just can't sleep. You're pacing the floor at 3:00 in the morning. It's like, okay, sit down, shot of whiskey, play a game, read something, settle your mind, get some sleep. Okay, play a game. Like middle night, what am I gonna do? Yeah, I don't have that yet, and I don't know why. But there's no more Mud Daddy, so. But I still have Troy.
Thank you for sharing your story, Dan. I think a lot of people hopefully take something away from this. But regardless, thank you for sharing your story. It was really fascinating. This was great.
Thank you. It's an honor and a pleasure to be able to share. And it's people take care of your businesses. They're here. Take care of your community. That's what's going to keep things going.
Thanks again to Dan, who graciously agreed to be part of the pod. There was so much to unpack, and he did it with candor, grace, and positivity. It was a genuine privilege to capture his story, and I hope you enjoyed hearing his journey. Dan's story is obviously not done yet, and I am looking forward to seeing what he does next, whatever that may be. Please stay tuned for future chapters in the coming weeks. Until then, love yourself, love one another, and may pod save Troy. Troy Story, a podcast for the Collar City, is hosted, written, edited, and produced by me, John Salka. Our theme music is by Stephen J. Goldman at Four Legs Records. Like what you heard? Please give us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to Troy Story, a podcast for the Collar City. This is incredibly helpful for getting others to find our show. Want to know more? Visit TroyStoryPod.com to see upcoming episodes, guests, and bonus content. Thanks for listening. The views or opinions expressed by guests are their own and not of the host or Troy Story, a podcast for the Collar City.